So let's begin with the Daily Mail, Nicholas.
Well, of course, the news is still very much dominated by the dramatic conflict in Israel. And we have an image of demonstrators in Kensington in front of the Israeli embassy. The title says, how can the British left make excuses for a terrorist group that murders women and children? Obviously, as usual, Palestinians and in particular Hamas enjoy some sort of solidarity or sympathy among the West. It kind of beggars belief. We were just hearing in our own GB News bulletin, demonstrators, pro-Palestinians chanting Israel is a terrorist state, just as we've seen images of the people being dragged out of their homes, their cars, gunned down, and in some more disconcerting cases, militants or terrorists actually celebrating over their naked dead bodies. Yeah. Or they say, end the occupation. Well, I've got news for these people. Israel did end the occupation of Gaza, and they elected Hamas. So the pro-Israeli argument or counter-argument would be, okay, I did end the occupation of that bit. I'm still occupying West Bank, but who guarantees my security if I were to leave that part as well?
As often happens when these things escalate, it makes everyone's position that much more intractable, doesn't it? Anyone who was 50-50 about whether Israel was right to put up a security fence and 500 checkpoints will feel a good deal less inclined to remove that fence in the near future.
Turns out border walls do work.
Yeah, well,
sometimes, if they are done properly.
There are any number of questions, one of which has to be, how did their intelligence fail so dramatically? How did they find themselves with various posts unmanned and so on? I mean, had they become lax? It's very hard to say. But certainly I think there is a lot of justified anger at allowing this kind of demonstration outside the Israeli embassy, Bruce. That doesn't seem to be a controversial point.
I'm really... I find it all so appalling. I really do. I find it really it's scary, and yeah, I just...
One thing I know that people have said, and Nicholas, I don't know whether you have a view on this, is that, you know, obviously the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been going on for, you could say, since the establishment of Israel. But the last 10, 15 years, the escalation there with Hamas installed inside Gaza and so on, and the intensity of it, we're seeing much more evidence that it has support in London and in the UK generally than I can remember. I mean, obviously your memory will be different anyway. Growing up in the last century, there was never this sort of sense that, as somebody said, if Israel does something bad, then Israelis and Jews in London become threatened. You know, extra security has to be provided. And if something is done bad to Israel, extra security is necessary in London to protect Jews. Do you see what I mean? It goes either way, and it just feels to me like this is quite a worrying trend in London, that there is a significant contingent who are pro-Palestine and not ready to apologise for anything that they do.
Well, that is quite alarming, isn't it? Because our overlords keep telling us that diversity is a strength and it's cultural enrichment. And look at some of this. And ironically, they define Britain by its tolerance. And these people, most of them do have British passports, because it's enough not to kill anybody for 6 years in this country and you get a British passport, right? And they say Britain is, because we can no longer define ourselves as a nation by the English language or by the empire or by the Industrial Revolution, because it was not carbon neutral, or colonialism, because all of them were bad and were white supremacy. So we are tolerant. So where is the tolerant here? Because this is terrorism, attacking civilians and taking hostages and celebrating over their dead bodies. And it's quite disappointing to see that even some parties or some even celebrities fail to recognize this and fail to condemn it.